There is a particular kind of stillness that settles over a person right before they make a decision that cannot be taken back. Not the stillness of calm, but the stillness of wait, the moment right before you step off solid ground into something you cannot undo once you have chosen it. You may have sensed that stillness in someone close to you recently. A change in how they carry themselves. A distraction that was not there before. A sense that they are somewhere else in their mind even when they are sitting right in front of you, working something through that has not yet been spoken out loud. Big decisions rarely announce themselves clearly before they happen. Mostly they build quietly, in private, long before the moment anyone else can see arrives. This reflection is for that season, whether you are the one sensing it in someone else or the one standing at the threshold yourself. Not to tell you what the decision should be, since that is not something anyone else can determine for another person. But to look honestly, through the lens of Scripture, at what it means to stand at a point of no return, and what tends to be true on the other side of it. The particular weight of no turning back. Most decisions in life leave room for adjustment. You can change your mind, try a different approach, walk something back if it turns out to be wrong. But some decisions do not offer that mercy. Once they are made, the door that closes behind them does not reopen, and everything after has to be built on the new reality rather than the old one. That kind of decision deserves the weight people give it. It is not indecision or weakness to take a long time standing at that threshold, turning it over again and again before finally stepping through. The heaviness of an irreversible choice is not a sign that something is wrong. It is simply proof that the person making it understands exactly what is at stake. Have you ever stood at the edge of a decision so large that even thinking about it clearly felt difficult, because every angle of consideration led to the same unavoidable weight? Elisha and the burned plow. There is a vivid, almost startling image in the book of 1 Kings that captures this kind of irreversible decision directly. When the prophet Elijah found Elisha plowing his family's field and threw his cloak over him as a sign of calling, Elisha did not simply walk away quietly. He slaughtered the oxen he had been plowing with, used the wooden plow itself as fuel for the fire, and cooked the meat to feed the people around him before leaving to follow Elijah. That was not a small gesture. Those oxen and that plow represented his livelihood, his family's means of survival, the entire life he had known up to that point. By burning them, he made certain there was nothing to go back to if the new path proved difficult. He did not leave himself an easy retreat. He made the decision completely, deliberately closing the door behind him rather than leaving it cracked open in case he changed his mind. That kind of decisiveness is rare, and it is worth noticing what made it possible. Elisha did not burn that plow impulsively, in the heat of a single emotional moment. He asked first to say goodbye to his parents, tending to what needed tending before he committed fully. The finality of the decision did not mean it was made carelessly. It meant that once he had counted the cost, he was unwilling to leave himself a hedge against fully committing to what he had chosen. Ruth's irreversible vow. There is another picture of this same weight in the words Ruth spoke to Naomi, refusing to turn back toward her own people and her own land after her husband's death. "Where you go, I will go," she said. "Where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God will be my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried." She sealed it further, calling on the harshest consequences imaginable if anything but death itself separated them. That was not a tentative decision made with an escape route in mind. It was an irreversible commitment, made by a woman with no way of knowing what waited for her in Bethlehem, no guarantee that Naomi's homeland would treat a foreign widow with any kindness at all. She simply decided, completely, and then lived the rest of her life inside the reality that decision created. What is worth noticing is what came after that irreversible choice. Ruth's story did not end in the hardship she risked when she made that vow. It led, eventually, to security, to love, to a place in the very lineage that Scripture treats as significant for generations afterward. The finality of her decision was not the end of the story. It was the beginning of a much larger one that she could not have seen coming at the moment she made it. A small, real moment, sometimes the sign that a decision has actually been made, rather than merely considered, shows up in small, concrete ways before it becomes obvious to everyone else. It might look like this. A conversation that used to circle around a topic suddenly landing on it directly, decisively, without the usual hesitation. A visible shift from someone who has been weighing something quietly, an unmistakable settledness where uncertainty used to be. A small action taken, quietly, that only makes sense if a larger decision has already been made internally, even before it has been announced out loud. These moments rarely arrive with fanfare. Watch for them anyway. Elisha's decision became visible in the burning of a plow, an ordinary object turned into unmistakable evidence of an internal choice that had already been settled before anyone else could see it. Sometimes the small, concrete sign matters more than any words that eventually follow it. Has there been a small shift recently, easy to dismiss, that might actually mean a decision has already quietly been made? What to do while someone else decides? If you sense someone close to you standing at this kind of threshold, it is worth being honest about what your role in it actually is. You cannot make an irreversible decision for someone else, and trying to push them toward a particular outcome rarely produces the settledness that a decision like this actually requires. What you can offer is steadiness, patience, and honesty if they ask for it directly, without trying to tip the scale toward the outcome you personally hope for. Naomi did not manufacture Ruth's vow. She actually tried, at first, to send her daughters-in-law back to their own families, giving them a real and honest option to leave rather than pressuring either of them to stay. Ruth's decision meant more precisely because it was not coerced. If someone you love is standing at their own threshold, the same principle likely applies. A decision made freely tends to hold far more weight, and far more peace, than one made under pressure from someone else's hopes. What this weight is doing, go back for a moment to the stillness described at the beginning, the sense that something irreversible is approaching, whether in someone else or in yourself. Here is what is worth remembering. The wait before an irreversible decision is not a sign that something is going wrong. It is often simply the natural gravity of something significant finally coming into focus. Elisha's burned plow and Ruth's unbreakable vow were both followed by lives that turned out to be worth the finality they required, even though neither of them could see that clearly in the moment of deciding. That does not mean every irreversible decision leads to a good outcome, and it does not mean you should rush toward finality simply because delay feels uncomfortable. But it does mean that the seriousness with which a decision like this is being weighed, in you or in someone you love, is itself a sign of how much it actually matters, and that weight deserves respect rather than dismissal. If any part of this found the exact place in you that is sensing or facing a decision that cannot be undone, let that be worth something tonight, even if the decision itself is still being weighed. And if someone comes to mind right now who might be standing at their own threshold, this might be worth passing along, as a reminder that the heaviness before a decision like this is not weakness. It is simply what it feels like to take something seriously enough to get it right. Here is a closing prayer, in case it is useful to pray as your own tonight. I bring you this weight, whether it is mine to carry directly or whether I am simply standing near someone else who is carrying it. I ask for the clarity Alicia had, willing to count the full cost before acting, and the settledness that came only after he had truly weighed what he was choosing. Give me patience with whatever timeline this decision actually needs, rather than rushing it simply because waiting feels uncomfortable. If this decision is mine to make, give me the courage Ruth had, willing to commit fully once I have truly decided, without leaving myself constantly second-guessing what has already been settled. And if I am simply waiting on someone else's decision, give me the same grace Naomi showed, offering honesty and freedom rather than pressure, so that whatever choice is made can be made completely, without regret trailing behind it. Whatever threshold is being approached, let it be crossed with clear eyes and a settled heart, and let what waits on the other side of it be worth everything the decision required to get there. That is enough for tonight. Whatever irreversible choice you are facing or watching unfold, the weight of it is proof of how much it truly matters.